You are forgiven. Listen, Christ resurrected and resurrection of Christ started from 1 Corinthians chapter 15. And this chapter talks about how he rise. How you doing, Professor R here? I'm here sharing with you what I know, and welcome to B.E.I.N.G, Professor R's B.E.I.N.G. This is a special podcast made entirely for you, for me, to you, to be in yourself. So there's a number of things I want to share with all of you. Some things that I know we haven't talked in a minute, but hello, friends. We're talking again. So Professor R is here to tell you. The resurrection of Christ started with his resurrection, and it reminds us that he preached to us how his resurrection started. So some of you want to know how to perfect your marriage, how to understand who you are, and everything. So one thing I've learned is that Christ is the perfecter. He's the one that can help your marriage because Christ is over the man. And the man's over the wife. And the man's over the children, which is the first fruits. So by me saying this, you got to remember, Christ was raised from the dead. See, marriage is another thing. Marriage is a lot of things that we must build a bond between two people, a man and a woman. How do you build a bond? You do not get a divorce. It says in 1 Corinthians chapter 7. So, marriage is matters that is a consent. A man is for a woman, a woman's for a man. A woman's body belongs to her. A man's body doesn't belong to him. It belongs to the wife. So the husband's body does not belong to him alone, but also to his wife. Do not deprive each other except by mutual consent and for a time, so that you may devote yourselves to prayer. You can't deprive your wife or you can't deprive your husband of each other's body because it belongs to them. You devote yourself only to prayer, but on the account of God. Then come together again so that Satan will not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. If you do not come together and try to build a bond, you will lose self-control. Self-control starts with being tempted in the mind, in the body, and in your spirit. You'll be tempted by Satan because he knows he's the tempter. He's the tempter. So he will tempt you in many ways through your mind. He'll play certain tricks on your mind. They come together so that Satan not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. I say this in a concession, which means you come together as one, See, let me read the next one. Not as a command. I wish that all men were as I am, which means that's not a command to love somebody. It's to come together in consent to love one another, to understand who others are around you. So let me share. Marriage is about consenting and coming together to understand each other in love. Love has its gift, has its moment. And you gotta remember, marriage is but each man has his own gift from God. One has this gift, another has that. There's different gifts every man has. It comes from God because God holds account to that gift. So if you love love someone else, you love them because on account of God, it was put that way as a consent. Like a written form. Okay? So you gotta believe that that partner is for you. You gotta believe that. So if that someone's for you, then believe that. Even if you're talking for a moment, guys, if it's like for a split second, if you believe that that human being is for you, then believe it. You gotta believe that someone is for you. They come your way. Don't be afraid to say, "Oh, that's not for me." That is for you because you picked out someone. You picked out someone, and you picked them because it was told to you that that's your significant other. So if that's your significant other, then you have to believe that. Because marriage is sanctioned or sanctified by God, is ordained by God in the order it's supposed to be. So you have someone you're connected with, then that's the someone you're supposed to be with. Even if you're not married to them. And if they're married to someone, let them be married to that someone until they figure out what it is that they're doing. So, for example, I say, but if that unbeliever leaves, let him do so. See? So, a believing that our woman is not bound in such circumstances. Okay? You can't be bound in something if the man unbelieves is unbelieving or unbeliever, let him leave. He has to leave because he unbelieves. He doesn't believe in marriage. So that means he has to leave. So a believing that a woman is not bound in such circumstances. God has called us to live in peace. How do you know your wife rather will save you, save your husband? Or how do you know your husband whether you will save his wife? So how you save them? How do you know your husband will save you and your wife will save you? By what is commission, which means that is love. Love has to save you. It has to be mutual consent. It has to be marital consent. It has to be a marital way, which means y'all have to consent or say it, confess it, say it to each other. That's what marriage is about. Even if you just starting on a relationship, you say it to someone because that's what your relationship is based on. Consenting and saying it to someone else that you love. You got to consent to it. You got to save that human being because you're being put together, I should say, ordained, put together, and being married. Now, you got to remember how you know your husband is saved and how you know you saved. Nevertheless, each one should return the place in life that the Lord assigned to him and to which God has called him. So whatever situation or whoever he assigned to, that's what he is called to do. If you're called to go to that significant other, that other woman, then you need to be going to the one that you were called to. Now, if you're called to her or him, then that's what you're called. God called you to that situation, to him or her, then that's what you're supposed to do. You got to follow that, what is assigned to you, what is given to you, and continue on. Last but not least, final thoughts. Nevertheless, each one should return for a place in life that the Lord assigned to him and to which God has called him. So whatever is assigned to you, That's what God had called you to do. Then you have been assigned to it. This is the rule I laid down in all the churches. So every church you go to, if it's a sign that you go to that someone, then you go to them. Just so you know. If the Lord assigns you to that, that's what you go to. Okay? There's no other way. Until next time, on B.E.I.N.G, Professor R, always coming to speak the truth and giving you the word. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May his face shine upon you. May he lift you up in his continuance. I'm Professor R. B.E.I.N.G. I'll see you. Keep liking, comment, subscribe to all my other channels. A Man's Guide to Success, brought to you by A Man's Guide to Success. I Am That I Am Ministry and Professor R channel. And subscribe to this one. Until next time, brothers and sisters. Shabbat Shalom.